In my wrestle dreams, I see this game, Silent Hill 2, an immensely ambitious creation from the early PS2 era, constrained by both technological limitation and game design standards of a survival horror genre in its adult scenes. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely a unique game of its kind, a portal for interactive horror and unavailable cult classic, so much so that its status even attracts those who never played. And as the industry teaches, part of the curse of the game cult status is that hungry producers will inevitably come along and order a remake. And from Rome, the creator of Layers of Fear. This venture seems like a bad joke from the start. Surprisingly, this pulse with a questionable track record ended up creating a decent game, and that make it all the more disappointing against the backdrop of the original, for which the phrase decent game seems insulting. I must admit I am disappointed. I expect a circus, a shitpost, a chaotic collection of awkward scenes with the worst modern gaming mechanics, a parody not trying to be a parody, and for something on the level of the senseless and merciless Silent Hill HD collection with a Comic Sans font, miserable folk, and Troy Baker's voice acting. Voice me. Silent Hill 2 by Wilbur Team predictably turned out to be extremely derivative game, but at the same time too educated and competent to unconditionally relate it to cringe culture section and dismiss any attempts to analyze it seriously. At this point, I raise my hand in the air and give a Bloober Team credit, whereas the Silent Hill 2 is a solid modern horror, as I say, with all the amenities. Technically sound with no major breakage anywhere, with a comfortable controls and a tidy interface, with a sensible game design and surprisingly colorful graphics, with a series of logical component changes clearly made with the weaknesses of the source material in mind. This is a big step forward for the studio, and let's face it, truly their best game, which of the course speaks less about a successful attempt to update a cult classic and more about the quality bar set by the developer's previous project. The most extensive and noticeable change is the level design. While maintaining overall fidelity to the original plot, the new Silent Hill 2 fundamentally restructured James Road through the ghost town. Its key points remains the same on paper: apartments, hospital, prison, hotel, but all the constants have been revoked so that the player path feels as natural and precise as possible. Of course, the ability to make locations seamless without loading before each room greatly benefits the developers, making the gameplay pace significantly brisker. The map has also become more readable and convenient, but they are also thoughtfully worked on the placement of key items, puzzles, and triggers. The probability of missing something or getting stuck in one place for a long approach zero, even though some not so logical puzzles from the original have migrated to the remake. Yes, we still need to say through a juicy box into garbage code to get a token, but this time the item itself and its place of use are located very close together, and the sought after reward is highlighted in advance. At the same time, new puzzles fit into the gameplay quite organically. Some of them, by the way, are moved to the pleasantly expanded city segments. Unfortunately, there still aren't enough of them for Silent Hill 24 to feel like a full-fledged open city rather than maze with peace and scaffolding instead of walls. The second important step forward is approach to monster encounters. While in the original, fights often felt like danger and more like waste of time, the remake has introduced something resembling a combat system. Calling it deep would be an exaggeration, but it suits the game well. With minimal means allocated to the player, attack button, dodge button, plus firearms, the developers managed to make almost every skirmish potentially risky. The updated behavior of monsters make a big difference. Enemies move quickly, bite painfully, and surprise with variety of attacks, making them much harder to hit than the old game. Despite the bestiary not being expanded with a new creature, The upgrade of female monster was approached with a full responsibility. The lying figures, formerly punching bugs, have become more agile and sometimes split sharply from a distance, while some specimens explode with a poisonous cloud after death. Mannequins cunningly lure players into ambushes, hiding in corners and attacking packs, and the nooses represent a floating island of horrors. It's better not approach them at all, as you can catch a wall combo, a heavy pipe strikes to the skull. However, firearms often save the day when used skillfully. Besides headshots, niche shots work excellently, knocking enemies down and allowing James to unleash his melee arsenal without much risk. But encounters against groups of opponents still cause problems and force active maneuvering. In terms of convenience and quality of life, the remake has also been properly upgraded. Interfaces have become cleaner and more user-friendly. The game pauses less frequently without good reason. James rocked more activity to have sloths moving slower, groaning like an old man, and clutching his injured limbs. Maria behaves more adequately in gameplay and doesn't rush needlessly into monster attacks. And among the obvious technical flaws, one can only note clumsy animations, occasionally slipping target lock in melee combat, and an unpleasant save bug that has apparently already been fixed with a patch. Even PC optimization doesn't present significant problems. In general, Silent Hill 2 by Bluebird Team should be called a solid modern survival horror. It is very possible to perceive this game separate from its source material, but we understand that's impossible, don't we? But first, let's show some leniency to the authors. Remaking Silent Hill 2 is not just a thankless task, but rather an almost impossible one. With all its aforementioned accolades, it's very strange game that could only come into existence in its time with the limitations that existed then. It has a strange pace, strange script, strange interaction with damn strange mice and scenes. Take either the dancing pyramid head or the booming Edie. But somehow, especially in Silent Hill 2 case, these oddities were maximally organic parts of the overall uncomfortable atmosphere. The unnaturalness of what was happening, from unusual camera angles to drawn-out frames, everything fed into it. My favorite example of such organic strangers is the voice acting. It's a known fact that a non-professional actor, Guy Keehan, was cast as the main character, and his non-professional delivery of lines fits perfectly into the overall picture. To appreciate this, it's enough to hear how off-key Troy Baker's rehearsed voice sound in the HD remaster. The entire cast of the original Silent Hill 2 is an example of miscasting, but not in a bad way. Each of them in his collective perjury tries to play a role they don't fit. How else to more aptly describe the behavior of a man searching for his wife while knowing she is dead? How do you make such a game, considering that by the laws of the EA industry, you must use a fundamentally different set of expressive means? How do you select a new arsenal of techniques that meets such non-trivial artistic challenge? This is an alternative path, making not a direct remake, but a reinterpretation in the spirit of Silent Hill, Shattered Memories. But this requires courage, talent, and most importantly, creative freedom. Even the release of Shattered Memories can be considered a miracle, its developers long concealed from Konami the true nature of their project, presenting it as a faithful remake of the first franchise installment. Perhaps the corporate machine has learned its lesson since the years. Perhaps Bluebird's had creators sitting behind them hardly with instruction that one step left, one step right execution. We don't know this, but the result of their work with original material more resembled an attempt by a rural youth theater to seriously stage King Lana. In the set of costumes of shows about the Shemashiraki characters. Yes, they have a lot of possibilities that Shakespeare couldn't even dream of. You can display bright visuals in the background, or play remixes of cult classical compositor, but pompous elevated monologues in the language of a bygone era will still sound out of place. The developers are constantly torn between inexplicably inoperative changes and equally inoperative literal quotation. It somehow resembles the experiment of Austrian director Michel Haneke, who tried to reshoot one of his early films frame by frame with popular Hollywood actors. Surprise, surprise, it turned out to be a different film. Because every detail affects perception. Take one of the first cutscenes where James reads the letter. In the original, it's maintained in a long general shot. The hero distances himself from the player and appears as a miniature figure before the opacity landscape of Toluca Lake. By the way, the backdrop in this scene is actually a real photograph, distorted by fog and pixelated graphics, another brick in the foundation of the reality of what's happening. Of course, I'm not saying that I need to recreate the detail, but in the remake the entire rhythm of the editing goes down the drain. But you have a static frame for a minute and a half. Nightmare Mode games will minimize your game after 10 seconds and launch Fortnite in the background. Urgently give us a montage cut to a close-up, better yet too. The level of direction is taken free, and so is everything. Reddit or someone might not understand that was just a serious game on adult themes here. They will think we are making jokes. What the first battle with Pyramid Heads takes place on some tiny staircase landing, and then he goes underwater. What nonsense! Let's make a normal spacious room for a boss fight. Let it be a perfect rectangle, and with a destructible object it be cool when they fly apart from the swing of the clever. It would be extremely naive to say that the plot in the remake remains the same. The plot is not only the sequence of events, but also the means by which they are presented. Camera angles, which have been replaced here with a standard over-the-shooter view in gameplay and sterile serial montage in cutscenes. The soundtrack, the updated arrangement of which, forgive me Yamaoka, seems like a necessary cover of the original compositor, and much more. The same voice acting, which has become more professional but not better, yet also heavily impacts the characters' overall portrayal. James and Angela sounds too cold and adequate for their lines. Eddie, on the contrary, is perceived from the very beginning as a nasty, unhinged and potential danger type. Marie has a lot of the wish charms of the female fatale and tends more towards to a damsel in distress. Perhaps Laura, who is altogether a stranger at the feast of self-flagellation, got the luckiest. Don't take me for a maniac dimension respect for every letter of the original. The root of the remake problems is not the changes as such, but precisely in the fragmentation and inconsistency. If anything, many changes should have been pushed further, without fear of rewriting some imaginary secret curves. More small and interesting optional places appeared of the city. Great. It's only there were even more. The character comments of what's happening more often, awesome, but still not what enough, especially considering what is madness is happening around them. If I were to look in dreams, it would be cool to see a truly open city full of the small interesting stories that deeper reveal the settings, but even the collectible knows the author smoothly prefer to transfer a bunch of the not particularly meaningful text from the original. The main achievement of the remake remain comfort, convenience and graphics, and that all fine, but not what made Silent Hill 2 valuable. As for the expressive part, what reminds of the former picture is a fragmentary set of quotes and memes. Pyramid Head with mannequins, James with his habit of sticking his hands into various holes, controlled nurses, promises and teams of lava, there was a hole there, is gone now, and it's not hard to understand who he's aimed at. First, this familiar Silent Hill 2 true memes, and second, those fans who want to pleasantly tickle their fragmented memories without having to play an old and uncomfortable game. The latter will be welcomed by the remake with open arms. In some places that have undergone noticeable changes, James momentarily sees flashbacks from the original game. No, ultimately this doesn't lead to anything special, and is limited to banal thinking for those in the know. Oh, in the original there was a piece of Cynthia, and now it's gone. Even James will drop a special little phrase about pizza. Isn't that funny? recognize it. I remember something too. There was a convincing and coherent artistic statement somewhere. It was called Silent Hill 2, but now something else will be called by that name. Thank you for watching.